I appreciate you taking the time to attend this webinar on defaulting waivered enrollments through IPA. We have a very special guest here from the Kennedy Krieger Institute, Shannell Cockrell. We have also Jeff House, who's joining her for the color commentary today. And with that, I give you Shannell and House.
Good morning, Shannell.
Good morning, Jeff, and good morning. So today, we are going to be talking about how to get your employees auto-enrolled into Waive plans after your open enrollment period is done through IPA. Before we get started, just a little bit about where I'm from, where I work. Kennedy Krieger Institute is located in Baltimore. We are a comprehensive care facility for children with disabilities. So we do everything under that umbrella, from education to Head Start to research, to outpatient and inpatient care. So we have lots of different varying needs, lots of different varying employees. And we have about 2,600 employees, so we're about a medium-sized company. We are on-premise, and we use talent management along with Lawson S3. We're on version 10 in both of those platforms. And we use it for benefits, payroll, GM, GL, MSCM, just about everything. We also use XM for expense management and some other, and Mingle as well. So what is our problem that we were trying to address? After the ACA reporting started, we discovered that we had a lot of employees who, even though we tell them to enroll, everyone must enroll, even if you're waiving, they just chose not to enroll. And so when we went along with our first ACA reporting process, we discovered that we had a lot of blank records, employees who we know we offer benefits to, who we couldn't prove that we offer benefits to. So our solution to that originally was to manually update all of those employees' benefit records with a Waive plan. Very tedious. No one wants to do manual in these days. So we said that there has to be a better way to, one, identify those employees who failed to complete the enrollment, and then two, make sure they have a plan so that our ACA reporting is a little easier in the future. So our better way, as we outlined it, was one, to identify those employees without doing reporting and reconciliation in Excel. Two, we wanted to enroll those employees into that plan, and we wanted to make it automatic. No more manual update of those employee benefits. So in came Jeff House, and he helped us deliver this solution, which was using IPA and the resources that we have to really get that, to help us reach our goal. This is an example of what the flow looks like. Looks very simple, but it is so dynamic. There's a lot of layers and JavaScript behind all of this to make it work.
And one of the really good things that we did in this flow was we were using the existing plan groups that are defined in the system for new hires. So that way we knew we could see if an employee enrolled in only select benefits. Maybe a benefits coordinator enrolled somebody in a benefit manually, but didn't get all the rest. So we want to make sure that the Waive plans were hit for every plan group that Kennedy Krieger had. And the solution for that was to use the existing setup screens, the BS03 screens, to find the appropriate plan group and plans.
Exactly. So let's look at pieces of this and just kind of go through it so you can understand what the solution is that we came up with. Oops. So first, we had to find the new hires and the life events that happened outside of the enrollment period. Because that was one of the issues and the gaps that we had. We could get all the open enrollment folks, but what about the people who came on board or had changes throughout the year? So the first part of the flow does that. It searches for the new hires according to their adjusted hire dates in the system. And we have parameters in there that looks at anything that's greater than 60 days prior to today, but less than 30 days, so that we don't catch people who are still open during their enrollment period and place them in Waive plans that they may not have wanted to enroll in. And then secondly, we wanted to find those life events as well, which are always tricky. So we wanted to make sure we capture people who had those ES-10 records that are created when life events are approved. and look at that effective date and use those same parameters to identify the people who were either new hires or had a life event during the year who chose not to enroll.
And then here, like we were saying earlier, we're going to query all of the plan groups that they define, and this is what makes it dynamic. So it's not a hard-coded list of benefit plans, nor is it a hard-coded list of benefit groups. If they decide to change things in the system, this flow is going to pick it up dynamically. The less we have to change the flow, of course, the better.
Exactly.
And it'll run if you move plans in and out. Perhaps a new health plan comes along. We certainly don't want to hard code an old one if you move from a PPO to a high deductible. Any of those types of things, this is what makes it dynamic, by using what's already in the system.
And we're actually in that situation now. We just added a new vision plan, and there's a Waive vision plan and a regular vision plan, and this flow will pick that up without us having to change anything.
Oh, that's right. I remember that from Open Enrollment. Did you test this with it?
Kim tested it, I
Really?
believe.
Good.
I believe she did.
Sidebar conversation.
Yes.
But that's testament to, if you do your flow development properly, then your dynamic changes should come forth.
Absolutely. All right, so next we're going to compare the employee enrollment to the available enrollment options. So we already went through, as Jeff said, we identified the plans that were available to them based on whether they were new hires or life events. And now we're going to compare what they actually are enrolled in to those options that they have in the system. And we're trying to identify the gaps. What didn't they enroll in that they were available to enroll in?
Right, and this for each is for each employee that we found. So in that beginning, we had the employee list of all employees that we need to check.
Yeah.
And so they were stored in an array, and then we're just going to loop through each of those to go through and find what benefits that they currently enrolled in.
Yep. And then once we are finished with that query, the system will then go through and add the Waive plans automatically on the BN 31.2 for those people who are identified by the previous processes and knows that we're going for each employee.
And one thing to note too is that we know the Waive plan based on the benefit plan itself.
Yes.
There's a flag on there, of course, that says Waive plan, and we're looking for the Waive plan within the plan group, and then we set that. So that's how we know which plan to enroll the employee in, based on how the plan is set up. Everything is dynamic within the system.
Yes.
Another cool thing to note here in this particular block is that we've given them the ability to run this without doing an update.
Yes.
So they can run it in report only if they trigger it manually, to where it'll go through and see what it's going to add and then deliver them a report of employees. So that way, things like this where you add new plans, make sure that the dynamic flexibility of the flow is working as it should.
Exactly, and that was really important for us too, is this, the fact that this will go through and create a message that lists everyone who was changed and the changes that occurred, so then we can go back and validate and make sure that what we wanted to happen occurred and that what we didn't want to happen didn't occur. Right. And it's also a way for us to have some kind of audit tracking so that we can see on this date these changes were made to this employee's benefits, and we have that separately without having to do it in the system, which is awesome. And then the report results. So the flow updates the begin date parameter for the enrollment window automatically. So again, something else that's dynamically driven by the IPA that we don't have to think about and update as the flow runs, which is awesome. So we do not have to go into the system after we run this and change the dates so that the system is based on that 60-day and 30-day parameter that we saw before, so that date doesn't have to manually be changed and edited.
And one of the tricks that that I do in a lot of flows that I develop is use the configuration set parameters, especially for flows like this that are scheduled on a daily basis. What happens if you miss a day? Maybe your system's down, you're doing maintenance, you had a hurricane, you had some sort of outage that caused your system to be down while this flow was scheduled to run. Wouldn't you like to pick up the previous 1, 2, 3 days? Nobody likes downtime though. So normally it's going to run daily, so you should be fine with that. But use configuration set parameters, and you
Absolutely.
can update them from IPA using landmark transactions.
Absolutely. And the fact that it is on the configuration parameters lets us go in and manually change it if we want to.
That's true. If you want to get historic reports, you can do it that
Exactly.
way as well.
Exactly. So it's very flexible in that aspect. And then an email, that note right there, an email is sent to us with that information. So we don't have to go in the system, look at print managers. It just runs, we get it in our email box that lets us know exactly what occurred when that flow ran last, which is very convenient as well. And this is what it looks like when we get it. So easy to read, very clean, and very comprehensive. It tells us exactly the employee that was affected, the event that they had, the effective date of that event, the plan that was affected, the code. So, you might have multiple plans, and then the message of whether it was add, complete, continue, which is a S3 return message that something was successful, or if there was an error.
Have you had any errors?
I have not had any errors. And the top also lists the dates, which is very helpful. So you know the exact enrollment dates and what the parameters used in the flow. So you can also use that to validate what occurred as well. And as Jeff was saying, we schedule this. So we don't have to go in and run the job all the time. We just set one schedule up in Landmark using these process trigger schedule screens that you see here. And once we set it up, you can set it up to run every day, every weekday, once a week, every Sunday if you only want it run then. So it's very flexible in the scheduling. But once you set it up once, you don't have to do anything else. Landmark will just keep running it on that cycle unless you change it. Yeah, it's exactly what it says. You schedule it and you forget about it.
And you can trigger it manually too.
And you can, of course. So if there's a time where maybe I did schedule it once a week, but I want to run it in the middle of next week, then I can just go into Landmark and activate that process to run it. And it will not affect my schedule. So at the end of this, we went back and all of our goals were accomplished. We covered our gaps in coverage, so we've identified the new hires and the life event folks who didn't choose to enroll even though we tell them to. We got rid of all of our manual work, so no more updating the BN 31.2 manually with the Waive plans, no more doing reconciliation with Excel spreadsheets to determine who needs a Waive plan, or doing ACA reports to determine who's missing an offer. So all of our ACA reporting is now so much better and so much happier with these gaps filled in. So that's our process and that's our solution for getting rid of those empty coverages and gaps in coverage that we discovered during our ACA. Does anyone have any questions?
We have one.
Great.
We have three.
Awesome.
Oh, one's just a comment. How about that?
Uh-oh.
The
like
first question is somebody wants to know if you will make this available for download so they could try it at their own organization.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, we could actually post it out on the IPA community on Digital Concourse. Is this handling the waives after open enrollment as well?
Yes, we can also use this. Right now we're looking at new hires and life events only.
Yes.
But this could be turned into something that we could use for benefit open enrollment as well. Our current process, I believe, is to look at all of the enrollments and then we fill in those gaps and then do an upload of the Waive plans. But this could definitely be used for that purpose as well.
You just have to use the same framework. Absolutely.
Oh, the next question I love because
Uh-oh.
I'm new to the Lawson and IPA. Please contact me regarding questions and training. So I'll handle that as the sales guy. The next one is, do you create a new Waive record for each calendar year? We currently run, or we currently will end the Waive plan on 12/31/17 and add a new one effective 1/1/2018.
We do the same thing.
Okay.
To fill those ACA gaps, you need to have a plan for each year.
And that also forces the enrollment too.
It does.
And the other question is, they keep on coming in.
Good.
Are you using benefits in S3 or Landmark?
S3. We have
S3.
not moved over to Landmark 11 yet to use the benefit modules.
Next, can this be used for status changes during the year which could make them eligible for another plan or not eligible?
That would be considered a life event. The way we have ours set up anyway. So any status changes that like from part-time to full-time or full-time to part-time.
I think they're talking about like going from per diem to full-time to where they were not benefit eligible and now they're becoming benefit eligible.
Correct. Yeah. I believe it could. We still mark, in our system anyway, we still mark those as life events.
Oh, you do?
We do. So anyone who has a change like that in our company, we create a life event for them so they have an ES-10 record so they're now eligible to enroll in benefits. So I believe your flow would pick that up as long as it's marked.
As long as it has a
an
life event. But if you do things differently where you do have status changes, you'd have to, or they would become new hire eligible. And then they would basically be a new hire at that point.
So it would work in that case too.
Should.
So just several comments saying thank you very much and awesome presentation. Thank you. But another one came in. Does a detailed explanation document exist of the various nodes used, for example, configuration variables and for node?
I don't have that documentation ready.
We
but
we have it. I
could.
mean, I did do some documentation on this flow,
Yeah.
and not necessarily node by node. As you can see from looking at the flow, it looks very simple, but there is a lot of JavaScript behind it. In fact, we're doing a lot of arrays with objects in it, and then looping arrays in those assigned nodes. So that one assigned node may look like it's just doing a simple assign, but no, there's
Right.
there's a huge loop that's gonna go through all of the employee plan groups and then do all that comparison. So that way we don't bombard the system with numerous nodes spawning. We tried to optimize this.
And you
Okay.
did. It's great.
Still more coming in. If you're not using ESS, could this still be used?
If you're not using ESS,
Well, we're looking at the BS screens, the pending benefits.
correct. You just have to change the query to look for people who became benefit eligible, and then maybe send them a notification. Hey, you need to go through new hire enrollment.
So some configuration changes would be
Correct, but if they weren't using, I mean, this is very, very much geared towards ESS.
Yes, it is.
But if you wanted to automatically do the enrollment if the employee didn't have it, then it would just be a matter of simple queries. I think it would actually be a lot simpler now that I think about it.
It would be a lot simpler because you wouldn't have to go to the BS screens at all.
That's all I have.
Thank you,
other
everybody,
than-
for the wonderful questions.
Yes, thank you so much.